Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Flip Genius. Today, I'm super excited. If you've been involved in real estate at all or in entrepreneurship, you know this gentleman that I have on today. He has worked with most of the top real estate investors in the country. We've known each other for years through a mastermind that we were in together, and a great guy. He's been a mentor to so many of the big time real estate investors in the country. Somebody I greatly respect. So I'm excited to have him on today, Mr. Patrick Precourt.
Oh man, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Brandon. Excited to be here, especially this time of year, man. By the time this airs, will be the beginning of 2026, right? We got an entire brand new year out in front of us, and often time of reflection where we look back at our previous year. We kind of measure how far we've come or haven't come, right? And set
Yeah,
all these new goals for the next 12 months. So pumped to get into this, man.
yeah. Well, thank you again for joining. So, looking back at 2025, again, I've mentioned that you work with a lot of the top real estate investors in the country as a mentor, as a coach. And what did you see in 2025? What was kind of the general consensus of 2025?
Honestly, high level of uncertainty, unknown, fear of change. You know,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, brother, we've been on this upward ride for, man, better part of 15 years.
hmm,
And a lot of the top players right now got into the real estate space within those 15 years,
yeah,
meaning that they've only known a ride up where even your mistakes in real estate get corrected by the market. So you don't
yeah,
even pay the penalty, and therefore you don't get the learning curve that goes along with our mistakes, right? And now here we are. We're generally speaking nationwide, generally speaking in a changing market,
hmm,
and how far it's going to change, and specifically the nuances of how it changes in our own backyards is all unknown. So it creates a lot of uncertainty, and out of uncertainty comes fear, and oftentimes out of fear comes inaction. We stop doing, and saw a lot of that this past year.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's I think some of it's carrying over in 2026 too.
Okay. So you think the sentiment going into 2026, is it excitement? Is it more fear? Are you feeling change is coming? Good change? What are you hearing from the people you work with?
Yeah, so from my viewpoint, it's opportunity.
Hmm.
Okay, and the opportunity meaning that the more chaotic the environments are, the greater the opportunities are created in the chaos. And that's just always been a true story. So it's
Hmm.
not a matter of whether it's better or worse, good or bad. It's not really the question. The question is, are we willing to step into the fire and play in chaotic environments
Hmm.
and adapt to what that looks like, which oftentimes means we got to redo some of the playbook a little. You have practices and you have principles. Principles are solid, they never change, they're foundational, they're universal. Practices are kind of like what works locally now. So it's time relative, it's geographically relative, it's got other nuances like that, and they change consistently. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Yeah, so now we got to fall back on our principles, but we got to update our practices for what's coming our way.
Yeah. So how do you prepare? How do you encourage somebody to prepare for a new year, specifically around mindset? Because I think for our business, like you said, 2025 was a slow year. We had great years for many years, and then it slowed down a little bit in 24. 25 was even slower. And so trying to have a positive mindset going into 2026, not really knowing what's coming. I think one of the things we've learned over the last couple of years is all the things that we thought would help the real estate market didn't necessarily help it. And so I want to enter 2026 with a positive mindset. I'm ready to, bust the doors down and come out of the gate. How do you prepare after being kicked down so many times to get back up and stay positive?
Yeah. So this might be a bigger question than you might think. So what if I told you that mindset, Brandon, really wasn't the game? And I know we put a lot of value on it and credibility to it, and all the gurus refer to it all the time. But what if I told you that mindset actually was a lag indicator of something much bigger, which is our belief system. So
Okay.
our mindset on the outside here reflects what we believe to be true, okay, or
Okay.
not true. So you say, well, how do we, alter or change our mindset, create a positive mindset? Well, we don't, we can't. We have to address the beliefs that are curating the mindset. So, example, if your belief is that the market is turning, prices are dropping, we don't know the floor, which is true,
Hmm.
and therefore it's going to be a very bad 2026. Your mindset will reflect that belief. If you alternatively believe that the markets are changing, they're going to be dynamic and chaotic, and that is what creates the greatest opportunistic scenarios possible, well, then your mindset will reflect that. So the
Okay.
question is less about how do I create a positive mindset, because you can create kind of like a false positivity and just pretend everything's going to be, roses at the end of the day, and that doesn't
Right.
serve you as well, because it takes away your kind of like your intuitive protection and judgment, right? Let's look at our beliefs and start with that. And here's the other part of it: as adults, we don't just change our beliefs. We need new evidence. We need facts to support a new belief. So if we're in a position where, yeah, we want to see 2026, we want to see the opportunities in 2026, which means, yeah, we have to have a better viewpoint, mindset, right? Which means we have to alter our beliefs and start to believe that chaos creates opportunity. Well, we can't just shift that belief. We have to start seeking out new evidence to support the new belief, account for
Okay.
the evidence, be aware of the evidence, and start building a treasure chest of this new facts, new evidence to support the new belief. And the new belief will, by default, override our old system that no longer serves us. And that sounds complicated, but does that make sense at all?
It does, yeah. So, and I was thinking as you were saying that. So, I can try to trick my mind from a fear-based position, like, oh, I'm worried that 2026 is not going to be good. We're going to spend a ton of money on marketing. What are we going to do if the deals don't come in? That's kind of the fear-based that we deal with a lot. And I can go, oh, well, power of positive thinking, right? I'm just going to think positive, even though deep down inside, I'm still a little bit fearful, and I'm not sure if my positive thinking is going to turn out to be right or wrong. And it sounds like what you're saying is the first thing you have to do is go find facts that support that 2026 is going to be a good year, and then start studying, reading, researching those facts, and let those be the support or the foundation to the new belief, as opposed to just trying to make it up in your head that you're going to be positive. Is that right?
So you're on the right path, and there's a little more work to it in that, yes, we start out by doing the research, the study and stuff, but we actually have to do the work. We have to apply the work, because you can study something until you're blue in the face. It That won't transfer into I believe it to be true. I have to
Okay.
apply the information and get the new facts back to support it to be true.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I have to
It
see
does.
it in action. I can't just study it. I have to see it
Yeah.
in action, which brings up a really good talking point here, and that's the idea that we have to now. You hear the again guru term, fearless. No, fearless is never the goal. Courage is the goal.
Mm.
Fear is rooted in the unknown. So anytime we're going into a new space or doing something new and different or effectively growing, right? There will be fear that tags along for the ride. Fear is okay. Nothing wrong with that at all. Oftentimes it's a when it's used properly, good energy to propel us forward, right? So the goal is not fearless here. The goal is courageous. So acting in the face of fear. So even though you
Mm.
have a deep down subconscious belief that's in conflict with what you're about to do, and that's where this deep level seated fear come gets really real. We have to walk into the fire anyways,
Mm.
and seek out our new results, our new evidence, new facts to support the new belief. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about here. And there's a process, but the cool thing is, man, we're as programmable as a computer. We just
Mm.
follow the steps. We can get to the outcome here. We're really that predictable.
Yeah. Yeah, I love your definition there of courage. I think in our society today, where we're trying to redefine a lot of different terms, courage is one that I feel like we've tried to redefine, and people think if you have a lot of courage, that means you just absolutely have no fear. You're just tough and no fear, and you're just ready to go gangbusters. And I always tell people, and I tell my son, like, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is having fear and doing it anyway, whatever the thing is, which is, similar to how you described it. But it makes me think of we went on a zip lining tour, like a canopy tour, where you're up, 120 feet in the air, and these zip lines are flying through the air, and you're connected to it, and you're like, okay, if this thing breaks, I'm dead. There's no question. I'm going to be in the trees and dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my son was like, I can't believe you weren't scared. I said, oh, I was scared, just like you. But both of us did it anyway. That's courage.
Yeah. So 100%. And it's fair to interject in the conversation at this point, right? And we'll use fear as an example, but this applies to pretty much everything. There are three different sources of fear. There's intuitive fear, right? There's instinctual fear. So intuitive, that's through our wisdom in life builds our intuition. Our instinctual fear, that's innate to us. We were born with that, right? So we have intuitive fear, we have instinctual fear, and then we have emotional fear. And that's the most misleading and deceitful of the three. The other two are pretty solid and worth our attention and our focus. But emotional fear is completely made up here. That's when you go, what if? And then we inject a future event that we don't want to see happen, that's completely made up in our head, that does not serve us. What if this damn thing breaks along the way? What if that marketing campaign fails and I lose all my money? What if nothing works and I'm broke? We start playing a future event that is completely, like I said, fabricated. It's not real.
Yeah,
But now it's creating a tremendous amount of fear in the present. Does that make sense?
it does.
That's
Yeah.
the one we got to shut down. That doesn't need courage. That just needs a hard stop. Like we got to put an end to that one.
Yeah. Yeah, when we're talking about fear, I think one of the things and I saw something you said about the difference between information and education. I think it was yesterday. I saw that you said something. You want to kind of hit that definition again? Because I think a lot of people think that information and education are the same thing.
Yeah, so information is what we gather when we're sitting in front of a professor or a teacher, and they're reading out of a book, teaching us stuff, and it's what we just memorize or take notes on. And education, right? The true way to transfer information to knowledge is through execution. We have to experience the information at work. And that's where we genuinely learn it and convert it into knowledge. So I use the example in the jiu-jitsu world. If I took two practitioners, Brandon, one had an entire year to study jiu-jitsu. The best practitioners in the world. These guys are both brand new. Everything else is equal in their lives, right? One has an entire year to study the best practitioners in the world, watch all the YouTube videos, memorize all of the submission holds and the escapes and the sweeps and so forth, right? The other guy, brand new, he's going to come to my gym for 1 week, 5 days, an hour a day, okay? And then after that week, this guy's been studying for a year. This guy's been training for 1 week. The following week, I'm going to put them on the mats and they're going to compete, okay, against one another. Everything else is equal. The guy who's been in our gym for 1 week, 5 days, 1 hour a day, getting on the mats and actually rolling in real time, getting 10 minutes, 15 minutes of instruction at the beginning of the mat, then rolling during the entire time and getting corrected along the way, right? He will destroy the other guy every single time, 100% of the time, hands down, without exception. There's no exception to that. That's how impactful knowing the difference between study is and the application of the study and how important it is. And that's what I tell people all the time, man. You're getting too caught up over here. Spend 10% here, 90% here, and you'll grow so much faster and so much more further in any given amount of time than you could ever by spending all your time in study. But whenever we find ourselves coming up short or not getting the results we want, what do we always default to? I must need to know more stuff.
Mm.
I need another
Yeah.
podcast. I need another book. I need another course. We always default back to the study instead of the application of the study.
And is the application taking action of some sort, take imperfect action?
That's exactly what it is. It's getting on the mat and doing the work. That's
Hmm.
exactly what it is. And
Yeah.
there's no shortcut to that. There's no exception to that. You can't memorize your way through that process. You have to execute your way through the process.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on, obviously, we're both in real estate. We both do real estate education and coaching and mentoring. One of the problems that I face a lot of times when I'm talking to potential clients, potential students, is their fear. Their fear of, what if it doesn't work? Yeah, it works for you, Brandon, because you had this and this and this. Or what if what you're teaching me doesn't work? How do you move someone? And again, I know you've worked with a lot of different real estate investors. How do you move someone? How do I, if I'm talking to someone on the phone, how do I move them from, oh, but what if it doesn't work? I'm afraid to pay your coaching fee because I'm afraid I might not make any money. I'll lose my money. How do you get somebody's mindset or their belief, back to the belief system? How do you get them from, I'm afraid it might not work, I might not be that good, I might not be successful, I might lose my money, to, okay, this is gangbusters, I'm ready to go. Let's jump in with both feet. Are you looking for just a specific person who is willing to jump in right off the bat? A buyer is a buyer is a buyer, and so it's a numbers game? Or is there a method for moving somebody from fear-based thinking to believing in themselves?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and every real estate coach has the same question, right?
Yeah.
And the answer is simple. It's identifying what the real hangup is,
Hmm.
and it's not your course. It's not your content. They see it works, so
Hmm.
intuitively, consciously, they know that the system is good. They trust you, or they wouldn't be on the phone in the first place. It's not that. Their challenge is they don't trust in themselves, Brandon.
Hmm.
Ask them. They've tried everything and nothing's worked. Like, that's the common words they use, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And they fundamentally know that it doesn't matter how good the thing is. They know that they're not going to execute and follow through, and therefore it will fail for them. Yet here we are trying to tell them how great our product is again and again and again and again and again, when we're not addressing the real cause of their fear. They don't believe in themselves. And they have a
Hmm.
track record to support that broken belief. How many times have they made a New Year's resolution, speaking of the time of the year, and not followed
Yeah.
through with it? How many times have they committed to losing weight and not followed through with it? How many times have they, committed to, making 100 outbound calls a day for 5 days straight and not followed through with it? It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the thing, and has everything in the world to do with them. You
Okay.
see the separation we're making here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to answer your question, it starts with, how deep do you want to go with them? Do you want to take that person over the starting line? They're not at the starting line yet.
Right.
They're way back here. Do you want to get them up to the starting line? One of the foundational questions you ask them, and you got to get to where they're trusting you and so forth. Say, hey, do you actually, let's just say this product was, everything I say it is. Just pretend it is, and it works phenomenally. Do you actually believe that you're the person to succeed with it?
Hmm.
Ask them the hard questions, you
Yeah.
know, and the answer you want them to get to is no, because once we identify the devil, we can conquer the devil. If
Hmm.
we don't identify, then we're wasting our time, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes from that point. Okay, good, awesome, and I agree with you. You let them know, and talk to them about what have their past failures looked like. What have they committed to in the past that they didn't follow through with, that makes them so fearful of committing to something again in the future? All good questions. Then you bring them down a path. Listen, you're telling me your goals are here and you're sitting here. But truthfully, you're also telling me you don't believe that you can actually achieve the goals. And if we don't believe in an outcome, it's
Hmm.
impossible for us to act on the steps necessary to achieve that outcome. And that's why I have a little pushback against like big, hairy, audacious goals. I get them, great, fantastic,
Hmm.
but not until we believe that they're possible. And that's all the human soul needs is a seed of possible to making to come on fire, to ignite. We have to at least believe the outcome is possible. Then we'll drop, man, all those fears get pushed aside. And we run through walls at that point because we know the outcome is possible. But going
Yeah.
back to this particular client we're talking about, this like avatar client, they don't believe
Hmm.
it's possible. So now we got to walk them up. So as adults, we don't give up our beliefs very easily. Even beliefs that are limiting, even beliefs that don't serve us, even beliefs that we've outgrown, we don't let them go because they define our identity. And this is an
Hmm.
important part for people to understand. Our beliefs shape our identity. That's who we are when we look in the mirror in the morning, right? And even if we don't like the belief or the belief is outdated or limited or doesn't serve us, our shadow ego will hold on to that belief because our shadow ego wants nothing to do with who you are capable of becoming. It wants to remain exactly the way you are. So all of the uncertainty that comes with growth, it has wants nothing to do with. Then that's part one. And part two, the shadow ego goes like this. Well, if you tell me we got to change a belief, that must mean there's something wrong with me. And I'm not going to accept that either. This all happens at a subconscious level. So that little voice in our head creeps in and says, man, Brandon, you're not good enough. This is too big. You're undeserving. You haven't studied enough. Who do you think you are trying to play in this league? Don't kid yourself again. You failed so many times in the past. All of those voices creep up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's ourself sabotaging ourself. But again,
Hmm.
once we put a bright light on this and we identify the enemy, we can defeat the enemy. So how do you beat that? Instead, don't change your highline goal. Don't feel you got to compromise where you want to go, but look at it as a ladder, okay? And that goal is at the top of the ladder, but right now there's no rungs in between, so you don't believe you can reach it, which is true. And that belief is 100% true. So let's add rungs on the ladder. And what are rungs? Micro goals building us up to the top line goal. Micro goals are something we can do now that we believe we can achieve. That's
Okay.
in alignment with the big goal. And the process is let's write out the big goal. Let's put a dot where we currently are. Let's draw a straight line. And then let's put these micro goals on the line, rungs on a ladder, in alignment, building us towards the top goal. And they each build on one another. And the only thing we ever focus on, ever, is not the big goal, it's the next rung. That's it. Is that possible? Yes or no? Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You follow me on the process? And what
Yeah.
happens is in short order, two, three, four, five rungs into this, we're like, you know what? That belief that I couldn't do it is starting to drift away. I'm actually doing what I say and saying what I do and accomplishing these results. And you build yourself back up. You build the belief and trust in yourself again. So back to your initial question, if you're willing to bring clients up to the starting line, say, hey, listen, as if I'm talking to you, Brandon, as a client. Brandon, I understand the problem here. And I understand your fears, and they're 100% legitimate. That you've invested a lot of money in the past in other programs and other training, and they have not served you. And I understand why. And you know what? That's the most brilliant part about our program. We identify that first. And we just walk them through this process. And as you probably get by now, it's not hard or it's not complicated and it's not like super science or anything like that. It's
Hmm.
really predictable how it plays out. Does that all make sense? I know I dumped a lot right there, but does that make
Oh, it
sense?
does. It makes great sense.
And
Let me ask you this. This may
yeah,
be difficult to follow up with that. Do you have an example of that?
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
an example of what that top goal would be that we think is unachievable, and then some of the micro goals below that.
Yeah. So we had a guy. So I owned a gym called The Cage for 13 years, and in that gym, we became known as a gym that gets people results. And it was what I call lifestyle fitness center, but had the heart and culture of our fighting arts too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And one of the trainers called me one time, and I'm not a trainer or a fitness guy or anything like that, right? But one of our trainers called me one time and said, "Pat, I'm having a challenge with this one client. He's 40 years old, wants to lose like 30 or 40 pounds. I forget the exact details. hasn't done anything physically since he was 20,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants to run a 5K in like 3 months. Can you talk with him? I said, sure.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of condensing the story a little, but so I sat down with him. I went through the obvious questions like, what do you want to do, why, all this kind of stuff, and then I went to one of the first big points was, why do you want to do this in the first place? And so something that matters in this discussion, Brandon, is attaching meaning
Mm-hmm.
to the end goal. If it doesn't mean enough to us, we
Yeah.
won't have the fight to do the work when the going gets hard, and the going always gets hard. That's a common, that's an expectation. But if it does not mean enough to us, we'll give up. We'll find ways to distract and avoid. We won't do the work necessary. But that's just a side note here. So I started
Mm-hmm.
the discussion, making sure these goals mean something to him, and they aren't just kind of, what he thinks, other people are thinking of him, right? And he said, no, my
Mm-hmm.
wife's running a charity, and her name's all over it, and she wants me to support her running this 5K. That's like the highlight of the charity and all this kind of stuff, and I really want to be there for her. Like, all right, so this means something to him. So we checked off that box. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then I asked him next question, well, why haven't you done this yet? Like, I'll be honest with you, I forget his name. We'll call him Joe. Joe, the stuff isn't that hard, man. What's going on? Why haven't you done this yet? You used to be an athlete. What's happening? And then he did the old, well, you don't understand, Pat. I've tried everything, but nothing's worked. Okay, good. Appreciate your honesty. So a couple more questions, just building a little rapport. But then I get to one that's the most impactful question, and I precede it by saying, "Hey, Joe, um, this is the question that decides whether or not we work together going forward. And there's no right or wrong. There's just the answer that you give me." Okay. He goes, well, how do I get it right? I'm like, there isn't a right or wrong. You just, man. But it will decide where we go from here. I said, Joe, do you actually believe? And I emphasize the word believe. Do you actually believe, Joe, that showing up at our door here, hanging out with us for 3 months, that you're going to lose 30 pounds and be able to go from couch potato to a 5K in 12 weeks? You know what he said?
What?
No.
Hmm.
And that's where I needed him to be.
Yeah.
I needed him to be at his truth. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
next big point in this, that if we are unwilling to humble ourselves to our truth, our reality, like our facts, we can't cause change in our lives. Nothing will change. And I know, and this is not a judgmental statement because I've been there, right? But it's easy to get caught up in a made up truth that's not factual. It's bullshit, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that be what prevent us from moving forward. And I don't have to go deep into that, but everybody just appreciate the gravity of that. If we're not being honest with ourselves, nothing will change in our lives, right? So he
Yeah.
answered it exactly the way he needed it. I said, perfect. This is what we're going to do. We're going to forget about the 5K and forget about the 30 pounds. He goes, what do you mean forget about it? Listen, number one, I need you to trust me in the process, and I guarantee you I'll get you over the finish line.
Hmm.
But I need you to trust me. Can I get your trust? And I got him. Said, yes, no matter. I went through commitment, all that kind of stuff. Good. I said, all right. Then this week we're going to do something simple. This starts tomorrow morning, Joe. Every morning, 5:30 in the morning, I need you to get out of bed, text me that you're up. I need you to go for a 1 mile walk and text me when you're done. Can you do
Hmm.
that for these next 5 days? Yes or no? He said, yes. I said, now I need 100% commitment. Commitment being whatever it takes, no matter what. Meaning that I don't care if the dog was up all night and kept you up. I don't care if you fell out of bed and broke your ankle. You have to go for the walk. It matters more than you can ever imagine. Can I get your commitment on? He said, yes. Boom. This is this is rung one on the ladder, Brandon. Okay.
Yeah.
We set a goal that I knew he knew was achievable, right? But the
Hmm.
5:30 was arbitrary outside of making it uncomfortable and breaking habits. That's all it was. Had nothing to
Yeah.
do with anything else. It was just making it uncomfortable with something that he could do. We get through the end of the first week. Next week, do the same thing, but now we up it to 1.5 miles. And what I'm doing is I'm adding rungs, and each one's getting a little further away. Man, it wasn't, I don't think it was the third or fourth week. He showed up one time so excited. I said, Pat, you don't know what just happened. I'm like, well, what just happened? He goes, I was thinking about this whole process we're in. I never explained the totality of the process that we're going through because
Yeah.
that would kind of undermine it a little, right?
Hmm.
He goes, man, I love what we've been doing, and now I can see the end goal here. So it now became possible to him. And it wasn't because the end goal got easier and at that he started to believe that he could do what he said and said what he did. That's it. That's the only shift that we needed to make this outcome 100% possible. There's no guarantees now. You still got to do the
Yeah.
work. But
Right.
that's an example of how rungs on a ladder that are in alignment with the high level goal, they don't slow us down, okay? But they're filling in the piece that matters most, and that's our belief that the outcome is possible.
That's
Then
great.
we get into the rest of the work. That
I
makes
love it.
sense?
That's a great example. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
A question about obviously we're moving into the new year.
Yeah.
Are you a person who sets New Year's resolutions? What are your thoughts on resolutions or goals? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so of course we should have goals and so forth. But you know what? Our lives don't change with the calendar.
Hmm.
That's kind of really a BS construct. And the
Yeah.
challenge that I see with most people, knowing that we are all creatures of habit, is that we set New Year's resolutions to make ourselves feel bad or feel better about our crappy performance in December when we ate too much, we drank too much, we slacked off too much, we didn't perform at the level we knew we should have. So we set New Year's resolutions to make ourselves feel better. We take the win upon setting the New Year's resolution, meaning we allow ourselves to feel good just for setting the resolutions.
Yeah.
But then we never even begin them. Never mind fulfill them. And by the end of January, most resolutions are just dead in the water, right? So
Yeah.
no, I'm not an advocate. I'm not a fan of them. If we're airing this in January, we're a little late in what I would have said. We should start way back in December. See, we're not what we say. We're not what we feel. We're not what we think. We are what we do. That is our identity. And if that needs to be changed, why the hell would you wait to the worst time of the year in January to change that? Why wouldn't you change it now? Now, we're in January, fine. Change it now. You're in the same pattern you were last year, which is New Year's resolution, and that never gets fulfilled. Change that pattern now. Pick an outcome, a goal that matters. Build your ladder. Put achievable rungs on the ladder and commit to it, meaning whatever it takes, no matter what. Don't defy the process. Earn the right to believe in yourself 100%. Right? Do we need goals? Absolutely. But goals are in place to mark, to be able to track progress. And here's a neat part of this whole thing, man. If we, Brandon, can track progress every single day, doesn't have to be big, but if we can track progress and it's towards something that matters to us, we can find a certain level, a sense of peace and fulfillment in the here and now. We don't have to wait to the end to feel that way. Yet, so many people are denying themselves and delaying the gratification of just a level of peace and fulfillment. I'm not talking about celebrating big victories. I'm just talking about being at peace with where you are in the journey right now. And the
Yeah.
best way I explain this is this, right? Because it brings in the word happiness, which I did not say, right? Um, Everybody says happiness is an inside game, right? And I laugh at that because happiness is directly caused or disrupted by externals around us. If your grandma dies, you're sad.
Right.
Your son's first birthday, you're happy, right? So
Yeah.
it's external circumstances that are triggering the emotion of happiness. And that's awesome, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But look at happiness as like a ship on the ocean, right? Calm seas, you're super happy. Rough, tormental seas, you're not so happy. You're sad. Okay, great. You're gonna change with the circumstances. But underneath, deep down in the water, there's a submarine. That's our peace, our fulfillment. That's our stability, right? It doesn't get affected by what's happening on the surface out there. And when this is stable here, we deal with everything on the surface 1,000 times better. When this is disrupted everything becomes a firefight, a knife fight on the surface.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying down here. This, when we can see progress daily towards a goal that's worthy, a notable outcome that matters to us, we can maintain a certain level of peace and fulfillment now, which allows us to deal with everything at the surface level 1,000 times better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the majority of our society, that's why gyms are packed in January, right? Because, and you had a gym. I'm sure you experienced it with people as well. Like January is the busiest time of the year for gyms because everybody sets a New Year's resolution. And I guess what you're saying is that majority of people in our society don't have that core belief like you're talking about, and they set a New Year's resolution to get in shape or eat healthier, quit drinking, or whatever it is, go wide open for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then fall off and never get back on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and back at our gym, you know what we never did? We never ran January specials at our gym. Why?
Yeah.
I didn't want those people to come in for a month and leave.
Yeah.
They were not. That does not make a good gym member. We want a member for life, man. We want somebody who can actually change their outcomes in our gym, and therefore we refuse that model 100% for that exact reason. And again, this everybody listening, listen to this with appreciate it with 100% without judgment, right? So this isn't, none of this is coming from that position. It's coming from the fact that we are in control of creating change in our lives. We don't need to ask anyone else permission for it. There's no gatekeeper to it. And there's virtually nothing we can't change if we want to. And there are basic principles that we have to follow. That's all.
Yeah.
It's no more complicated than that. And New Year's resolution is not a principle at all. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to categorize it in that space, it would be one that works against your favor, because we have habitually made a practice of New Year's resolutions that fail us, and then we lose faith in ourselves that we can follow through on a commitment, and that has a radiating effect on pretty much everything we do all the time.
Yeah. That's great. I'm not a fan of New Year's resolutions either. I never have been. And we do set goals. And so we can look back what we usually do. And we usually do it around the end of the year, beginning of the year, right where we are right now. And my wife and I will kind of separately think through some ideas, pray through some goals, stuff like that. And then we'll get together and we'll set some personal goals for ourselves and some goals together as a couple and as a family. And then that's the goal for the year. And so we usually try to get to 5 total goals. And so 1 or 2 of those might be financial goals or business goals, 1 or 2 personal goals, 1 or 2 family goals. And so it's amazing though. We don't have like okay, this is our New Year's resolution. We set it. This is our goal for 2026. Here's our list of 5 after we've come together, talked through them. We're going to work on them all year. And it's amazing. I would say probably 90 to 95% of the time when we do that and we write those goals down and we keep them somewhere we can see them on a regular basis or go back and revisit them every couple of weeks, hopefully every day. When we look back at the end of the year at the goals that we set for the year, I would guess 90 to 95% of the time we achieve those goals.
That's awesome and amazing. And yeah, you're pulling out of the construct of New Year's resolutions. Like I said, New Year's resolutions is defined by failure, Brandon. Setting annualized goals and quarterly goals, that's a totally different game, totally different perspective, and then especially if you have the wherewithal to constantly check in on them, measure against them, adapt and change along the way as you get different feedback as it's working towards or against your goals, right? And that's the process. You set a goal, you create a plan to execute the goal. The plan will never be perfect up front because, we're kind of guesstimating, right? But if we check in on our goal on a regular basis and see what's working, what's not, make it, micro tweaks and slightly alter the trajectory as we go along, then our goals become much more, achievable the further along in the year that we go. So that's a perfect process. So congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's true for everybody who actually does that. So that's been our focus as opposed to New Year's resolutions, is setting annual goals. So as we kind of finish up here, I'm curious, what's your 2026 goals? Have you had time to look at those? What are you expecting? Looking forward to expectantly in 2026? I know you're still involved in real estate. You're still involved in coaching and mentoring. Don't know what you have under the hood for next year. Do you have any thoughts or plans yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me add one more thought to this goal scenario because there's another little
Yeah.
piece of this that I think is just worth bringing up here, right? We set goals, we set ceilings, how far we want to go. So now analogy your goals in each area is your ceiling, right? As you want to
Hmm.
achieve, and I will share the idea, Brandon, that and this is a bit contrarian, but before we focus on ceilings, a more impactful part of the process is our floor.
Okay.
And our floor is defined as how low we go on our worst days, not how high we go on our best days, which are our ceilings. Okay? So
Okay.
look at it this way, right? That there's a fixed gap for every human being between your floor and your ceiling,
Hmm.
which means that the further up you bring your floor, the further up your ceiling because they have a fixed relationship between the two. Floor goes up, ceiling goes up. Now, ceiling is not what you're guaranteed to achieve; it's what your potential is, your capacity, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
But they live in a fixed relationship, and I always share the idea that before we start worrying about what we're capable of, let's look at how low we go on our worst times in life. Because if even if it's one day a year, that's our real identity. That's our limit. That's who we really are. Just means the rest of the time that we have some sort of constraints in place not to go there. But that's our real identity. And I'll share with
Okay.
people, figure out what that looks like and always work on raising your floor all the time. And do that before you get too worried about how far up you can go because your ceiling will stay pretty low if our floor is in the gutter on our worst times. And I know it's a, kind of an odd way to look at it, man, but it's a true story. And when you talk about your floor again, it's not just your actions; it's your thoughts. You know,
Hmm.
your feelings, your intentions, all matter here. It's the
Got
stuff that no one knows about. Another way to look at it, it's the stuff that happens in your personal life that your public life is completely unaware of. How you perform when
it.
no one is aware or paying attention or even possibly seeing what's going on. How do you think about that other person? Do you allow yourself to go into a really negative place of how you think about them or not? No one's going to know, but that all determines your floor.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of accountability here that people are not aware of. We feel we're not being held accountable to the stuff that nobody knows about, but that's a false statement. That's true. That makes sense what I'm trying to explain?
It does, yeah. So how do you raise your floor? Like if you're on your worst day, and I'm just thinking, whatever, on my worst day, I think this about myself. I feel this way. I feel like I'm a failure. I can't be successful. I haven't lived up to my wife's standards or what I think. So how do I uh, make sure that I'm raising my floor so that it's not that low.
Yeah,
I
so
don't. I'm not that low as I
those so
would
those
otherwise
those
be.
are all different things, right? So number one, always check your thinking. Now, mind you, there's a difference between thinking and thoughts.
Hmm.
Thinking is a verb, it's an action, which means it's premeditated. We intentionally are thinking about something. Thoughts are that's what comes to us in when we're in dead silence, when we're in a zone, when we're in a state of boredom, which is just defined as external stimulus being shut down and we're dropping into that creative state. Those are thoughts, those are on par. Our thinking is our concern here. When our thinking is not in alignment, directly in line with what we're trying to achieve, with who we say we are, with how we present ourselves to the world, then that is below our floor. We're
Okay.
bringing our floor down. something happens to you, somebody does something to you, and even it was mean and intentional.
Hmm.
Instead of letting it go, appreciating it, whatever, you get vindictive. You want to get them back,
Yeah.
right? That is never in alignment with who you say you want to become, with how you show up to your kids or to your wife. You
Hmm.
follow me with that? So
Yeah.
this is
Hmm.
where we have to have the discipline to hold ourselves to super high standards. And this brings up that word standards, right? The easiest way to elevate in this world are just to elevate our standards. When we elevate our standards, everyone we influence around us feels that elevation. We can't help but to drag them up with us. It's an
Hmm.
amazing impact, right? But there's no one who's going to come knocking and say, Brandon, man, you're playing lower than you should be right now. This is
Hmm.
where it gets tough.
Yeah.
We've got to have the commitment, the ruthless accountability to say, I'm just not going to allow myself to play at that level anymore. I'm better than this. Now, back to you said I feel like a failure. I feel like I'm not living up to my wife's expectations. Whatever. We have intuition, we have instinct, we have feelings. We have to disempower feelings that don't empower us.
Hmm.
Feelings are misleading. Feelings lie to us. Feelings are
Yeah.
never what they say they are, ever. And we have to appreciate that, right? That's our right brain getting a little out of control. And when that
Hmm.
happens, again, it's just discipline. Let's shut it down and confront it with facts. If the feelings are lying to us, let's shine a light on them with the facts of the situation. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
again, it's very mechanical. Let's get out of thinking too much and look at ourselves more sometimes like machines that we have buttons and levers. And if we pull them in the right order, we can get ourselves to work out in a much better way.
Hmm.
But if we can just acknowledge that feelings are deceitful, they're never the truth. They're always something. And this works the opposite way. We could be super positive, excited, energized, and that will allow us to see things better than they are in the situation, which is not to our favor either. We want to see
Yeah.
the situation for what it is, right? You've been through these events or, seminar stage, guru speaker on stage, getting everybody hyped up and motivated and bouncing around like monkeys in the audience and then
Yeah.
selling them something, right?
Yeah.
Well, because they dropped their guard on what would normally be a very critical, constructive viewpoint on what's happening and evaluating the investment, right? They drop and say, no, this is going to solve all the problems in my life right now because my emotions, I'm feeling that, and therefore I'll go
Hmm.
buy.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And those
It
will
does.
mislead you. That's usually when that situation you're talking about, that's usually what we're up against. Emotions, which are triggered by
Yeah.
a million different things. That's fine, right? So this goes into the space of emotional intelligence for a second. Be aware of the trigger, be aware of the emotion, manage the emotion, and then remap the emotion. So what does that
Hmm.
mean? So we're mammals of patterns, right? Predictable.
Hmm.
How you react to a trigger is repeats itself again and again and again. So let's be aware of what causes the emotion. Be aware of the emotion. Don't just let it run wild. And then manage. Manage is pause, maybe breathe if it's a strong anger, right, or fear. Think about what we're thinking about. And if that thought is not in alignment with the desired results and outcomes, inject a new thought, which we can do. And we're the only mammal on earth that can do that as humans.
Hmm.
Inject a new thought, which automatically comes with an attached emotion, which is planted in our subconscious. We think the new thought, it rips it out of our subconscious into the conscious, and now we feel what we're thinking. And now we're
Hmm.
thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking this new thought in alignment with the outcome that we want. So we're starting the process of state change, right? And when we
Hmm.
think and feel and think repeatedly connected towards a desired outcome, it can't help but to start to alter the way we act, the decisions we make, the actions we take. Because, of course, the precursors to decision are thinking and feeling, right?
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
just gain back control of the situation. And I know this is a
Yeah.
lot in this short conversation here, but hopefully somebody can grab one of these tools and take it a little deeper, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they can. And I've known you for years and heard you speak on many stages and followed your stuff. So I have had a lot of this personally help me. A lot of what you're saying personally helped me. And even today, I feel like the stuff that we've talked about, I'm learning, I'm asking the questions as if it's only to benefit me, knowing that lots and lots of our listeners will get a huge benefit out of it as well. So it's great information, great stuff. And I do believe that at the end of the day, our what we want, our goals, our actions come out of our beliefs. It comes out of who we are, who our identity is, who we are at the core. And so learning to figure that out, know who or where our identity comes from, and then change our beliefs or manage our beliefs is going to produce the outcome that we desire, not just trying to work on the outcome itself.
Correct. And again, appreciate like there's no arriving in this process. There's only getting better, which is awesome. Like I'm not sitting here, preaching from a pedestal. Like I'm down sitting in the pew with all you folk, right? Side by side, shoulder to shoulder. This just happens to be my nuanced lane that I play in, right? In the space of human behavior. But it doesn't mean that somehow I'm way ahead of everybody else or anything like that. We only get better, and not compared to anyone else, compared to who we were yesterday. And I want to just remind that of everybody, right? This isn't you versus anyone. This is you versus you, and the goal is to outperform the you from yesterday. Progress forward. That's it, man. That drives our human soul. That inspires us, not motivates us, inspires us to do it again tomorrow. And let's get away from that need for constant external motivation and lean more into creating an internal inspiration, because then we bifurcate ourselves from all the externals that we need to drive our behavior. Now we can show up on cue every time because we're in control of what drives our behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
You versus you.
You versus you, brother.
That's great. All right, you have to share at least one of your goals for 2026, or one of your what you're looking forward to. I am curious what a goal of yours looks like as we finish up here.
Yeah, so we've been working on now for about 6 or 8 months a program called Business Performance Engineering. And what it does is it takes human engineering into the corporate world. So instead of improving, strategies or practices or operating procedures or providing, cultural change or motivation, we focus on the human level, and we engineer human behavior to produce extraordinary results. And ultimately, what that means is if I can get every human being on any given team in alignment with what they do every day, if they can believe and truly understand that what they do is in alignment with them producing their own goals and dreams and outcomes in their lives, they will show up as a better human in their job. If they can, even if they don't like their job, Brandon, if they can fall in love with the outcome of what they do, what it's doing for them, then they will be grateful for the opportunity to do what they do. Does that make sense?
It does.
So we're going to engineer. Instead of trying to fix it from the top down, we're going to engineer it at the employee level. Of course, each level's got to get engineered. Mid-management, leadership team, and of course the CEO visionary level.
Right.
But it's at the human level now, and connecting them to their own desires, dreams, goals, and outcomes, and seeing that what they do each day is an enabler, a bridge to producing those. And the better they do what they do every day, gets them there faster. So if they can connect those dots, they don't need to be motivated anymore, because they're no longer just doing it for a paycheck, which is very unmotivating, by the way, doing it for the boss, the man, or having a disconnect from the outcome. They're doing it because it means so much to them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's great. That's exciting.
We're looking to roll it out. Yeah.
Rolling that out to corporations. You already work with a lot of companies, but rolling that out in 2026.
Yeah, that's in January. Let's see, that's where we're headed.
That's great. I love it. Well, Patrick, man, I appreciate it so much. It's been great talking to you today. Thanks for taking some time out of your day and coming on the podcast and all the great advice and inspiration you've given to all of our listeners. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, honored to be here, honored to share. Man, it's, I want to just remind everybody that no matter where we've been, or mistakes we've made or anything like that, that's our past, and our past, Brandon, does not dictate our future. Look at every single thing we've ever done, good and bad, as required training for who we are to become. That's it. Even the worst stuff that's happened, we had to go through that training to become who we're capable of becoming. But don't let it go to waste. Utilize that. Start stepping into the shoes that are waiting out in front of you, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great parting words. Love it. All right. Thank you, Patrick. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon. I know we'll be in the same room here in a few months, if not sooner. So I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Thanks, Patrick. Take care.